to get going?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Okay, I will call the January 4th, 2022 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would Councilmember Steckler lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Naomi, roll call.
I think we need to do the oath of office first.
Oh, I'm sorry, correct. Didn't read my agenda. Okay, we are going to move into some oaths of office, take care of some business. We're honored to have Representative Berg here to administer the oaths. I was thinking about whether we go in numerical order of the positions, but I decided we'll go in order of margin of victory. So we'll go by Councilmember Steckler and then Councilmember Vignell, followed by myself.
Take credit for that. It was a tough race. Yes. Step away from my glass, gonna put my mask on.
Are we going to get a second mic up there, Joe?
Yeah.
This might be good enough.
Can we
I'm not
test?
sure.
Or should I hold it?
And special thanks to Representative Berg. Thank you for doing
You've
this.
got a great voice. Am I gonna have to speak up a little bit louder? Is that the deal?
Fred, just in time.
Or I can, okay, here we go. Okay, testing. Is that better? Awesome. Mr. Steckler.
Representative Berg.
So let's start this. I, John Steckler.
I, John Steckler.
Oh, no, that is not yours. I almost want to do a point of, these have titles. I don't know if Naomi's still around, but it's, okay. So I, John Steckler,
I, John Steckler,
having been duly elected to the office of council member of the city of Mill Creek, Washington,
having been duly elected to the office of council member for the city of Mill Creek, Washington,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and to the best of my
and to
ability,
the best of my ability,
perform the duties of my office
perform the duties of my office
as prescribed by law,
as prescribed by law.
and I will support and maintain
And I will support and maintain
the laws and ordinances
the laws and ordinances
of the city of Mill Creek
of the city of Mill Creek
and the laws
and the laws
and constitution
and constitution
of the state of Washington
of the state of Washington,
and the United States of America.
and the United States of America.
Congratulations, you're a council member.
We do
Let's
it.
do-
Yeah, hey, there we go.
let's do the little thing. That is awesome. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give this to someone because these are different. Why don't you take this with you, John?
Oh,
Because they actually,
I probably should sign it.
yes.
Yes, you should.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, we're going to go next. Do you want to keep it as that? And then,
Yes, and
okay,
then
and then
after.
do you want, that's
This
what I was wondering because I
yeah.
was like, that would not, okay. Thank you, Naomi. You guys are about to get sworn to offices you did not run for. I'm just putting it out there. Got the right one, though. All right. Oh, you ready? Okay. I, Stephanie Vignell,
I, Stephanie Vanel,
having been duly elected
having been duly elected
to the office of council member
to the office of council member
of the city of Mill Creek, Washington,
of the city of
do solemnly swear
Mill Creek, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
perform the duties of my office
perform the duties of my office
as prescribed by law.
as prescribed by law,
And I will support and maintain
and I will support
the laws and ordinances
the laws and ordinances
of the city of Mill Creek
of the city of Mill Creek
and the laws and constitution
and the laws and constitution
of the state of Washington
of the state of
and the United States of America.
the United States of America.
Congratulations. Yay. Oh my gosh. You want to do a picture?
Can we take a picture with you? Yeah, four of us?
Yeah. On y va.
I know.
Or- So here, you guys do that, and then I'm gonna get out of the picture because you won't want to point. and
No,
then
you
I'll
have to
go
be in
on
the picture.
There we go.
There.
Sorry.
Perfect.
April, take one with you, one with you.
Yeah, yeah, but you guys need this. You don't want me in the scrapbook forever. Well, now,
You can get a photo with your family too.
is. Oh, okay. I was gonna say, are we just doling out families? Are we? Mr. Holtzclaw, I think I get this done. Okay, awesome. I, Brian Holtzclaw, having been duly elected to the office of council member of the city of Mill Creek, Washington, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability, perform the duties of my office as prescribed by law, and that I will support and maintain the laws and ordinances of the city of Mill Creek and the laws and constitution of the state of Washington and the United States of America. Congratulations. Yes. This back.
Hey, go Cougs.
Okay. Naomi, now would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Bond.
Here.
Councilmember Holtzclaw.
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Here.
Councilmember Steckler.
Here.
Councilmember Vanel.
Here.
Councilmember Allison.
Here.
Councilmember Duquette.
Here.
Oh, no, that was everyone. Okay, now we're on to the next item of business we take care of every other year. It's the election of mayor. So bear with me as per our guidance manual, I read through our script for the process for the election. Under our form of government, the council elects the mayor and mayor pro tem at the first meeting of each even numbered year. The mayor is elected biannually. Our governance manual, which was revised last year and adopted under Resolution 2021-604, includes the procedures that we use to conduct the election of mayor and mayor pro tem. Our process includes procedures for nominating candidates and procedures for voting. I will now describe these procedures. The nomination process. Candidates for mayor and mayor pro tem shall be nominated by a member of the council. Nomination shall require a second to place the nominee in contention for selection. We will first hold the election for mayor. When the nomination and election of the mayor is completed, we will conduct a nomination and election for mayor pro tem. If the council is unable to select a mayor or mayor pro tem, as the case may be, after 5 ballots, or if on any ballot containing only 2 candidates, one of the candidates withdraws his or her name from consideration before the vote on the ballot, nominations shall be reopened. If nominations are reopened, candidates that did not receive at least 1 vote during any of the preceding ballots must be nominated as set forth above. Nominations shall be reopened after every 5th ballot thereafter as needed. Any nominated candidate may withdraw from the selection process at any time except during an ongoing vote. The voting process. Our procedure for voting at the close of nominations calls for the clerk to place the names of all nominated candidates in random order on a written ballot, designating the ballot as round number one, ballot number one, and distributing the ballot to each council member. The procedure also calls for each council member to cast one vote for the candidate of his or her choosing or writing abstain on the ballot. The ballot is then signed by the council member casting the vote. The ballot is collected by the clerk who tabulates the votes, announces the name of each candidate, the number of votes for the candidate, and the council members voting for the candidate. If no candidate obtains at least 4 votes of the council, the candidate or candidates receiving the lowest number of votes shall be removed from the ballot, provided at least 2 candidates shall move forward to the next ballot, and the clerk shall prepare the next ballot and shall be designated as round number 1, ballot number 2. Ballot preparation and voting shall continue in that manner for 5 ballots or until one candidate receives at least 4 votes of the council, whichever occurs first. If no candidate is elected after 5 ballots, nominations shall be reopened as previously described, and voting shall continue in the same manner for 5 ballots or until one candidate receives at least 4 votes of the council, whichever occurs first. Because we are meeting in a virtual format and we are not all together, the voting process must be amended slightly. What we propose to do is conduct the nomination process as I have described. However, instead of voting by paper ballots, the clerk will prepare a ballot with the name of the nominated candidates and email the ballot to the council members. In this case, this will apply simply to Councilmember Cavallari. We will be casting ballots for the 4 of us here by written vote. Each council member will complete the ballot and email it back to the clerk, who will then tabulate the ballots cast by email, announce the name of each candidate, the number of votes for the candidate, and the council members voting for the candidate. Is there unanimous consent to conduct the elections with this change in voting procedure to accommodate our virtual meeting tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Hearing no objection, then we'll begin by opening the floor to nominations for the mayor. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be called upon to make a nomination. Do we have any nominations? Councilmember Bond.
Thank you. I nominate Brian Holtzclaw for mayor.
Any other nominations? Do we have a second for that nomination? I should have jumped ahead.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Going once, twice? City clerk and city attorney, do we still go through the process with one nomination?
Yes, Mayor, we should have the ballots tabulated.
Okay. If this clerk would circulate the ballots, please.
Make sure you have your name on the bottom. Make sure you sign.
Got it.
Is our public internet down? No, I'm on it. You may have to sign in. I have to.
Sorry, you needed that. Time. Hold on to it.
And then just some. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience. Councilmember Cavallari, I'm sending it to you now.
I know sometimes the mail can take a minute or two, so I can give you a voice confirmation for now, if you like.
Okay, I did send it, so let's see if there is a.
I got it.
Okay, great.
And I replied, thank you.
Okay, so Councilmember Cavallari.
Yes, ma'am.
Brian Holtzclaw.
Okay.
Councilmember Bond's vote is for Brian Holtzclaw. Councilmember Steckler is for Brian Holtzclaw. Councilmember Vanel is for Brian Holtzclaw. Councilmember Allison is for Brian Holtzclaw. Councilmember Steckler is for Brian Holtzclaw. And Councilmember Holtzclaw is for Brian Holtzclaw. Did I get everybody?
We don't need a recount.
Councilmember Duque, you said Councilmember Steckler twice.
I voted twice.
Oh, Duque, that's it. Yes, I'm sorry. Councilmember
Validate
Duque.
the
Steckler
election.
is stacking the vote.
Sucking
here.
up to the new mayor.
Right.
Okay, we will now go,
Councilmember Duque for Brian Holtzclaw.
thank you. And
Congratulations.
we'll now go through the same process for the Mayor Pro Tem. Are there any nominations? I see Councilmember Cavallari's hand raised.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, I'd like to nominate Stephanie Vignal for Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
We have a nomination and a second for Stephanie Vignal. Are there any other nominations? Seeing or hearing none, City Clerk, if you could please prepare the ballots.
Pigeon.
Naomi, these ballots say mayor. Should we handwrite on them Mayor Pro Tem?
No, I'm sorry.
Do we need new ballots?
Yeah, she.
No, sorry.
Just give special one this time.
What did you say?
Okay, I sent it to you. Councilmember Cavallari should receive it soon.
Thank you. And I replied, thank you.
Councilmember Duque for Stephanie Vanel. Councilmember Allison for Stephanie Vanel. Brian Holtzclaw for Stephanie Vanel. Councilmember Bond for Stephanie Vanel. Councilmember Steckler for Stephanie Vanel. And Councilmember Vanel for Councilmember Vanel.
Back out and administer some oaths.
Yes.
Do we need to do them, or does, the clerk needs to do it? Okay.
I, Brian Holtzclaw, having been duly elected to the office of mayor of the city of Mill Creek, Washington, do I solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and to the best of my ability perform the duties of my office as prescribed by law, and that I will support and maintain the laws and ordinances of the city of Mill Creek and the laws and constitution of the state of Washington and the United States of America. Congratulations. So you can administer Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Official first, official act.
Ready?
Ready.
I, I say your name. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. Having been duly elected
Having been duly elected
to the office of Mayor Pro Tem
to the office of mayor
of the city of Mill Creek, Washington,
of the city of Mill Creek, Washington,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and to the best of my ability
and to the best of my ability,
perform the duties of my office
perform the duties of my office
as prescribed by law,
as prescribed by law,
and that I will support and maintain
and that I will support and maintain
the laws and ordinances
the laws and ordinances
of the city of Mill Creek
of the city of Mill Creek
and the laws and constitution
and the laws and constitution
of the state of Washington
of the state of Washington
and the United States of America.
and the United States.
Congratulations.
And just for the record, I did want to mention that Councilmember Cavallari also voted for Stephanie Vanel for Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, Mr. Donna Brian, see. Bye, Fred.
Okay, now that we've completed the pomp and circumstance, it's on to the business. Let's do, excuse me, audience. Is there anyone in the audience besides Barb that would like to speak to the council? Or I should say, in addition to Barb, that would like to speak to the council? Barb, I saw your hand go up first and followed by Will. So please state your name and address and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Barb Heidel, 1401 144th Place, Southeast Mill Creek. Thank you, Mayor. We're first to say Happy New Year to all of you. I was pleased to see a list of recruitment search firms for the city mayor position in the agenda packet. It was very good. And especially glad to see a couple of the firms are in Washington State. I do hope the selection of a firm is conducted after thoroughness of examination and their thoroughness of background and work history checks. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Mr. Nelson, you still wish to speak? No? I will go to page 2. Is there anyone on the second page who'd like to address the council at the beginning of the meeting? Going once? Twice? Okay, hearing none, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Now move on to new business. We could all pull up in the packets our council liaison positions for the year. I gotta pull my copy up. Front of us so I think let's just walk through this possibly quickly. And for those that are still on the council that want to remain in the position, just indicate if you want to remain. And there's a few spots where council members that are no longer on the council will need to get replacements for. So start with the A and B board. Councilmember Steckler, you wish to continue?
I do wish to remain in that position.
Benjamin Briles was the alternate. Does anyone want to serve as the alternate for the coming year on the A and B board?
I'll volunteer. Connie Allison.
Okay. Councilmember Allison, you have that on city clerk? Okay, Parks and Rec Board. Vince, you want to continue?
I wish to continue.
Okay. Stephanie, alternate?
Mayor, I spoke with Melissa Duque today and she's interested in being the alternate and I said that's fine. So
Okay.
I am willing to let Melissa be the alternate.
Any objections? Okay. Left Board, Mark and John.
I'll stay.
Okay.
I don't think we need the Mill Creek sub area anymore, do we? Because that's complete, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we need to appoint a replacement for Benjamin because the sub-area work is complete. I guess we'll deal with appointing someone if there's some additional work that's done. But for the time being, I think in our next meeting, we'll be having the presentation of the recommendation. So I don't think we'll need to fill that. Councilmember Adam Morgan had been the liaison to the Planning Commission. Is there anyone that would like to step into that position? That yes?
No, it isn't. I was just putting my mic light on. So Councilmember Allison and I were very fortunate to have a meeting with Public Works Director Mike Todd, an introduction, and I'm going to talk about it in the report. But in the conversations that we were having, it seemed like this might not actually be a good fit, if that's the right word. I mean, Councilmember Allison, meaning that maybe those positions shouldn't exist for the Planning Commission and Design Review Board. So my recommendation is we should look into if that's something that should be valid, if that is something that needs to occur before appointing anyone to it and just leaving it blank for today.
Okay.
It seems like there was some kind of conflict.
Yeah, let's table that discussion. So let's table those two to the end. Civil Service Commission, that is Vince and Mark.
I'll continue.
Okay. Youth Advisory Board, Stephanie.
Yes, I'll continue.
Okay. The Affordable Housing, Alliance for Affordable Housing, Stephanie, you want to continue with that?
Yeah, I'm fine continuing.
And I guess I'll step into Adam's spot as the backup. That's usually precedes the SCT meeting. So I can step in for Adam there. WIRA 8 was Councilmember Morgan. That, who wants to explain the tradition for the WIRA 8 position to the low person on the totem pole? WIRA 8 is for the water resource inventory area that Mill Creek is part of. So it's a Department of Ecology body. It usually meets on, who's been on it most, was it like Thursday, once a month on Thursdays?
I think it's the third Thursday of the month.
Yeah. So traditionally that's fallen to one of our newest members. If we have any
I'll volunteer.
There we go. That's the spirit. Okay.
They're all virtual.
I will continue on the SCT. Stephanie, do you want to continue as the alternate?
Absolutely.
And our fire board, Vince, Stephanie, and Mark. Continue?
I'll continue.
Same.
This is a pretty important board. My current work schedule.
We can't hear Councilmember Bond.
Is this microphone not on?
Oh, there we go.
Sorry, my bad. This is going to be a pretty active board with a pretty big decision, and my current work schedule makes it very cumbersome for me to make it. And I think we should probably have somebody that's fairly certain they can make the meetings and participate fully.
Fair enough. Stephanie, would you want to step into the regular position rather than the alternate?
Oh, actually, I've been being a regular position, not just an alternate, because it was 3 people before, not 2 and an alternate.
Okay, well, we have it, yeah, for some reason it's designated as an alternate. I'd be
I'd
happy
like to
to,
step into the third position.
you want to start, that's fine. You want, would you like to do that?
I would.
Okay. Did you get that, Naomi?
Can you just clarify, are you talking about the health board or the fire board?
The fire board.
Fire board.
Fire board. Okay, so Councilmember Steckler will be in place of Councilmember Bond.
No,
For the
let's
fire
put, let's take off the word alternate for now. I don't know that we need that. We've been having 3 people on there, so let's just have it as the 3 of them.
Okay.
The health board, I think we just appointed,
Me.
and so that's reflected on there. I don't think we need to appoint anyone for the chamber. So the Snohomish County 911, I think, is the last one. Should interim chief be replacing former Chief Young on that list? Statement then.
That is correct.
Question.
Mayor, on SCC, Benjamin Briles was listed as the alternate on that. Do I need to be the alternate for you on that, since that kind of coincides with the other?
I don't remember why we had designated persons for Snohomish County cities, because that was just kind of a dinner where all council members are invited, and I don't recall there being a single representative. Is that your recollection, Mark?
Yes.
So I'm not, Naomi, I don't think we need the Snohomish County cities on this list. That's kind of a all are invited event, and it's been dormant since COVID hit. I don't think we have met since early 2020. Hopefully
Okay, very
soon.
good. I'll omit that.
And then let's table the discussion on the BRB and the Planning Commission, or the DRB and the Planning Commission, until we can look into the question that Councilmember Duque and I think the city attorney have brought up. Does that cover all of them, Naomi?
It does, thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to item G of new business, the resolution to approve the sale of a 2002 Isuzu NPR flatbed truck by live auction. Whom is this going to? Mike, Matthew?
It's going to go to me, Mayor.
Okay, floor is yours.
Good evening, council. Good evening, Mayor. As you all know by now, my name is Matthew Combs. I'm the Public Works Supervisor here at the City of Mill Creek. This should be fairly short. We are seeking the council's approval to sell PW3, which is a 2002 Isuzu NPR by live auction. This truck has multiple problems. It has outlived its depreciation schedule by a long shot. It suffers severe corrosion after being used in the snow removal for quite some time. And the cost to repair this truck far outweigh the value that this truck holds. So to finalize that, we did also just purchase PW14, which is slated to replace PW3 in and of itself. So with that, I would like to turn it back over to the council.
Thank you, Matthew. I am not seeing any questions, no comments, so that would leave us for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2022-618, authorizing the city manager to sell PW-3 a 2002 Isuzu NPR flatbed truck by live auction.
I second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Item H, adopt an interlocal agreement with Snohomish County for municipal road and street services within the city of Mill Creek. Director Todd.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. This should be a fairly quick one as well. We've had an agreement with Snohomish County for a number of years for backing us up on various things, particularly around streets and roads maintenance items. That expired and the county now has a new form. It'll be a 5-year contract. It's the same contract they extend to all of the cities. It is a little bit unique compared to the prior one. This time it says we could do services for them as well and charge them similarly for our time. That's not very likely, but it would be helpful if there's an instance where we could help them out and charge them for our labor. Typically, we're spending $2, $3, $4, $5, maybe $10,000 a year at the most under this contract. It's how we get them to do signal maintenance for us. If they care to charge us for snow plowing, this is how they would do it. There is an opportunity for us. I'd like to build a relationship with them. They have Vector trucks that we don't have and things like that. So there's an opportunity under this contract to do that kind of work. It's all at a good price because the county knows how to do it. It comes with equipment. So my recommendation would be we'd adopt this ILA. With that, I'll take questions.
Thank you, Director Todd. Any questions? Councilmember Duque.
Are there other cities in the area that have a similar agreement?
Yeah, the county has this same agreement with most of the cities. I think maybe the bigger cities like Everett says, thanks, but no thanks. We don't care to do this, but this is they've kind of standardized this agreements that have one special one for Mill Creek or Edmonds. They're all the same now.
Have your expenditures to date, is that amount that you're asking for, well within the normal spend or?
Yeah, so for instance, we budget a couple of $1,000s a year for them to have their signal tech come and work on maintaining our signals, just regular maintenance. And also if something goes crazy, we call them up and they come out and fix it. And so we budget $3,000 or $4,000 for that, and that's what they charge us. So this is, it's more having this in place is much more effective than going out and finding a contractor independently each time we need some work. And as I said, they're charging us the same kind of rate we pay for ourselves.
Thank you.
Certainly. So the motion we'd be asking for is this here, as you see on the screen.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution authorizing the interim city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with Snohomish County for municipal road and street services within the city of Mill Creek.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 7-0.
Can you tell me who seconded that motion?
That was the Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
And our last item of new business, the 2021 Complete Streets Pedestrian Improvements Project for $136,965. Mr. Reinhardt, City Engineer.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, Happy New Year. And I've come to you this evening to present an information and an update on the project and such, and to seek an award decision for a construction contract that we bid here this past December. So let's make sure that you all seen this presentation correctly. Good. So I'll just do a quick project overview, quick construction contract budget or bid summary and results, project funding and expense commitment status, and then reach the proposed motion. And realize that this proposed motion is a single resolution in two parts, just like the last award contract decision that I came to council for last summer. I'm going to go pretty quick through this, but I will have questions at the end, and I can return to any points that we have here. The 2021 Complete Streets Pedestrian Project is funded by the State of Washington Transportation Improvement Board grant. It has 3 project areas that we identified to be able to spend those funds. The first of those project areas is a project very familiar to everybody. It's the 136th Street Southeast Mid-Block Crosswalk to be located near Jackson High School. The base bid in this particular case installs the RFB foundations with alternative A to install the RFBs, and I'll explain why we bid it that way here in a few minutes. The second location is to build a new sidewalk section on Heatherwood Drive between North Creek Drive and Bothell Everett Highway, and I'll show you that shortly, where the street is currently missing a key sidewalk section to connect the neighborhoods and the athletic fields with Bothell Everett Highway and the bus station there. The third area is some additional shoulder pedestrian safety improvements on North Creek Drive to enhance the safety of pedestrians that already use the shoulder for sidewalk use. So the first one is the mid-block crossing. We've shown you a couple iterations of this in the past. This area is located, as you can see here, right next to the parking lots associated with the athletic fields, both north and south. This will involve installing, again, as I said, a new ADA crosswalk on both the north and south sides of the street. It will involve some additional striping, both to enhance the safety of a mid-block crossing. The RFB is not required for this mid-block crossing, but we considered an ideal safety improvement, and so the school district concurs. And so we plan on putting this in due course. And then we would put in some additional reinforcement striping. There is one area where it's existing marked as no parking. We'll enhance the striping out there to kind of reinforce that into things. And we also are going to put some additional no parking here. These are put in basically to maintain the line of sight distances that we measured during our traffic study for this mid-block crossing in order to make sure that there's complete sight distance on this particular project. So I want to touch briefly on that traffic study because, of course, this was a concern that was raised in front of City Council back during the summer this past year. So 136th Street is a 25-mile-an-hour street, but we do have anecdotal evidence of additional speeding on this street. So when we took the traffic study approach on this one, we looked at sight distance from both directions of travel using both 30 and 35 miles per hour, just to give us some additional safety in our ordinary traffic study. We did add the areas for no parking in reaction to where some of those sight lines were drawn, just to make sure that parked cars did not obstruct. We also reinforced the no parking area. We also added the yield bar paint triangles that you saw here to give some additional visual cue for vehicles about where they're supposed to stop in order to safely allow use of the crosswalk area. The Everett School District did review the location that we proposed and the configuration they proposed and did agree with that, including the reductions in city and street side parking that are inherently part of this design. The missing sidewalk section, as I mentioned before, is on Heatherwood Drive, and it's this sidewalk. This is the new sidewalk that we're proposing to put in. Right now, there is no sidewalk. Currently, pedestrian access from North Creek Drive to Bothell Everett Highway requires upwards of an 800-foot walk to basically switch back up this hill that exists here in order to get there. And really, there's no apparent wayfinding here on North Creek Drive to even tell somebody where to go in that regard. So this is an attempt to build a very direct ADA accessible sidewalk connection between these 2 points and give a little bit more connectivity to our bus stations and to the other amenities on the street. This is also in support of a school walk routes ideal for Trillium Boulevard. The third one is to enhance an existing public use of a roadway shoulder. It is a widened shoulder area. This is an area that we identified in previous transportation improvement plans as being ideal for pedestrian enhancement. Currently, there is no storm drain system along this side of the street. And so rather than the additional expense at this point in time to build a storm drain system to fully support a sidewalk and curb, what we elected to do was to use the TIB money to provide raised pavement markings and signage, paint on the street to enhance the safety of people who are already using this widened shoulder area for their pedestrian use. We put together the bid, as I mentioned, as a base bid that would form the basis of award and in a single alternative A work scope. This was done because the project engineer's estimate for the base bid was very close to our available budget at the time that we bid the project, and we still had concerns about the construction industry being impacted by COVID-19. So what we decided to do was that we would install the foundation and the mounting plate for the RFB as part of the base bid, and then if the alternative was too high compared to our budget, we would plan to come back at a later date to actually install the RFB units. We did go ahead and bid it though, just to see what sort of result that we would have. We advertised for bids on December 3rd of 2021, and we opened the bids on December 21st of this past year. We received a total of 8 bids. I've provided to you here in this presentation the lowest 4 bids. And Rawls Electric LLC of Bellingham, Washington provide the lowest responsive bid. We did subsequently review them in accordance with our contract requirements and Washington state law to determine that they are a responsible bidder. They did meet the mandatory bidder responsibility requirements. And as you can see from their bid, they did actually bid lower than our engineer's estimate and gave us a fairly good bid to be able to not only bid the base bid, but also alternative A at the same time. So just to look at the budget and our commitments to date related to this project. As I said, we have a state TIB Complete Streets grant with $252,000 and a little bit in it. This is the tabulation of our commitments to date related to this project. So this proposes to award the Rawls Electric project to build both the base bid and our alternative A at a total of $136,965 and leave us a 20% contingency for construction. We are proposing and assuming here a 20% construction contingency due to 2 factors. One, we need to build this during the winter. We have a deadline of the end of March to spend the TIB funds. And so we got to really crank this out. And so any delays that we incur based on, for instance, the weather that we all experienced here this past week, we need to make sure that we have the flexibility to get the project back on track to be able to deliver by that deadline. And the requirements of completing that deadline may require work outside of our normal working windows at additional expense to complete. So with that, all that said, the proposed motion that I've brought for council consideration tonight adopts a resolution as follows. And again, this is a 2-parter. The first part is to authorize the acceptance of the bid by Rawls Electric LLC as the successful responsive lowest bid by a responsible bidder, and then to authorize the interim city manager to execute a contract with Rawls Electric LLC in the amount of $136,965 following the city attorney's review and approval of the final contract documents. So with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions from the council? Councilmember Duque.
Yes. Thank you. My question had to do with the bidding process. Were they aware that the work would happen before March when they responded to the bids?
Yes.
So then based off of that, these numbers, it's with the understanding that we want the work completed then. So the contingency is in case of anything else.
Indeed.
Councilman Cavallari has a question.
Oh, now I see your hand. Vince, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. It wasn't a question. It was just to voice my support of the project. I was apprehensive initially when we started kicking this around. And now that Public Works and city engineers have addressed all the sightline issues, this is a very exciting project and a very, very good community safety school project that I'm happy to support. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? At the point in time, we entertain some motions.
Mayor, this is Grant Egginger. Just wanted to say that both parts of the motion resolution are contained in resolution 2022-620 in the packet.
Thank you. The script is on the screen for anyone who would like to make a motion.
I keep turning off my motion to adopt a resolution for the city council. Motion to adopt a resolution for the city council authorizes the acceptance of the bid by Rawls Electric LLC as a successful responsive lowest bid. The interim city manager is authorized to execute the contract with Rawls Electric LLC in the amount of $136,965 following the city attorney's review and approval of the final contract documents.
Second.
Grant, a quick question is in the amount of, is it an amount not to exceed? Or is this a fixed price?
It's a bid.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the bid contract amount is a price that represents the total of individual incremental unit prices. When we sign a contract, however, it does represent a cap, and we would have to address a change order to lift the cap in the event that any of those quantities exceeded what we estimated.
So do we need to clarify that, Grant? Haven't we in the past in our motions to approve these contracts, it says the amount not to exceed the specified amount?
That is correct. We often say that in an amount not to exceed and the bid amount. The amount of the bid is set at it is a built up bid as the city engineer has identified. So I think it would be prudent to say in an amount not to exceed $136,965.
I would second it based on that amendment.
Okay.
So I think the change, if that's acceptable to the maker and the second, would be in section 2 at the bottom of page 1, it would read, instead of in the amount of $136,965, it would be in the amount not to exceed $136,965.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries 7-0. And so Naomi, I trust you'll make that tweak to the resolution.
Yes, I will.
Okay. With that, that brings us to our first study session. This will be the first of many discussions in 2022 regarding fire contracts. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Todd and Karen Reed to take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. I'm going to turn it right over to Karen. I'll run the slides and she's going to do the good talking. So here we go. I think Karen's out there.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Happy New Year. We're going to have tonight is an informational briefing, and we welcome, of course, your questions and comments. The purpose of this briefing is to give you a review of the way we propose to bring forward and provide for your deliberations and public input on the question of the future of fire and EMS services for the city of Mill Creek. And so consistent with the direction from the council last year, ultimately by February, the question before you will be whether the city would like to place a measure before the voters seeking their approval of the annexation of Mill Creek into South County Fire. So if we could go to the next slide, Mike, thank you for running the slides. And I'll just also preview that tonight is a handoff from me to Mike, and for the next 3 weeks, Mike will be on point with this project with the support of Laurel and Martin and the city attorney, Mr. Degginger. All right, so there's sort of a set of documents that come together in a piece in order to know that you are confident that the annexation terms are as you would like them to be. And then you're confident supporting that before the voters. And this slide here shows you that there are basically 4 parts that are necessary to that initial decision. There are going to be a number of other actions you're going to want to take in connection with the annexation if it is approved, and also just getting ready for the election. But these are the mandatory ones. So this schedule focuses on these, where we can add other things if you want, but in the interest of just staying focused on the key components, this is it. First one is, of course, the documents related to the annexation. There is a RFA plan, which is South County Fire's high-level plan that identifies their territory, services, governance, operation structure. They need to amend that in order for you to join and get annexed. They have done so. So that's one document we'll need to look at. The next is a pre-annexation agreement, which details out how that annexation will unfold if it is approved by the voters. And the third is the interim service contract, which will be in place if the voters do not approve annexation, in order to ensure that services are available to the city in the short term while we develop a long-term plan. The second document is, second item is to determine the budget plan if annexation is approved and adopt a corresponding resolution. Third is the plan for raising funds if the ballot measure fails, and we would suggest that be confirmed just by motion at this point. And then if you do decide to proceed with the annexation vote, you would adopt a resolution placing the ballot measure before Mill Creek's voters. Next slide, please. In order for this ballot measure to be on the April 26th election, it would need to get transmitted to the county elections office by the last Friday of February. Your last regular council meeting is earlier that week. Our goal is to try to leave you a couple of extra weeks if you need them, but also the sooner we can have a complete package of information to communicate to the residents and the voters, the better off we will be. So we have a proposal to have this on deck every meeting for January and the first 2 meetings of February, with the final action to place the measure on the ballot on February 8th. So that gives you a little spare time if we run into some snags, but it also, if we're successful with this schedule, it gives us more time to talk to the community. We will have public comment opportunities at every single meeting, and we will make sure to promote that in particular for this issue for the February 1st and 8th meetings. There are other tasks, as I mentioned, that you will need to still pick up and that you're going to want to probably get on top of before the middle of the year. That is the fire marshal agreement. We've mapped that out in terms, we know approximately the costs. They're relatively small. And it's not something that you need to do right now. You can pick it up later this spring. The actual implementation work on a backup financing plan can also wait a couple months here. And the decision of how you would like to purchase the fire station, through what financing means, and the particular timing of that can wait a couple of months as well. So we wanted to provide this plan of how we want to roll this information out and give you some updates. The updates here: the South County Fire Board of Commissioners did approve an amendment to their RFA plan accommodating the annexation of Mill Creek, and that language reflects the requests from the city's negotiating team. If you guys find something in it that you just think is not going to work for you, we still have time to send it back and ask for an amendment, but the staff are in support of the document that they have adopted over at South County Fire. There's a communications committee that is working on the public education plan that includes staff from both agencies. It also includes Deputy Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Stephanie Vignals, and they've met twice. And at next week's meeting, the 11th, we will have the members of the communications firm come and say hello and give you a brief overview of the work that they're going to be doing on your behalf. The RFA Intergovernmental Committee and the City Fire Board, or the staff in support of the Fire Board, met last night just to exchange updates and talk about what was next. And the staff are working hard to wrap up negotiations on the documents that I mentioned earlier. That's going pretty well, and we expect to be able to share final proposed terms with you next week. Next slide, please. This shows the overall schedule, and I'm going to go through each of these parts. The 4 parts are color coded, so you can see briefing on the agreements every week, start the discussion on what to do if annexation is successful in terms of the freed up money in the budget. We'll start that discussion next week. We'll hear from the communications team next week. And then we will start the discussion on the, or at least we propose to start the discussion on the backup plan if annexation is rejected on the 18th and carry that forward, as you can see. February 1st, we'd present draft versions of all the documents for your final review, and then we would be asking for action on that on February 8th under the schedule. Again, there's flex if we need it, but this is what we're hoping to accomplish. Next slide. This just covers in brief a little bit more about the 3 agreements that we'll be coming forward with next week. Grant will give you a briefing on the summary of the terms. You'll be able to take a look at the draft documents. There's again the RFA plan, which is a planning document which has been amended by South County Fire back on December 21st. The pre-annexation agreement, which talks about the election dates, the transfer of the fire station, and we can be coming forward at a later date on how you want to choose to purchase that. But the fact that you will make the purchase so that if the annexation is approved, or if you have an interim service contract, you have a fire station from which South County Fire can operate. That's partly laid out here. The interim service contract kicks in only if the voters reject annexation. The pre-annexation agreement kicks in only if they approve the annexation. And we will come forward every week as necessary to answer any questions that you may have about these, but we anticipate being able to present everything next week for your first review and pile of questions. Next slide, please. So the budget plan about what happens if the cost of fire and EMS is removed from the budget, what will the city do? We're going to try to kick that off with council discussion next week on what's important to you about this discussion. Ask for any information requests you have of the staff and continue that in a study session on the 18th. Try to figure out if there's a consensus for council action over the course of those 3 meetings, and then bring a draft resolution that would state for the community your commitment to that budget plan. That becomes a really important part of the public messaging piece. And that resolution, if we are able to reach consensus on a plan, would be adopted on the 8th. Next slide, please. Again, if annexation is rejected, we'll need to start thinking sooner rather than later on what the plan is for funding the fire EMS contract in 2023 and 2024. 2022 is covered, you got a budget for that. But 2023 and 2024 are going to be tough questions with the EMS levy expiring at the end of next year and currently supporting 40% of that contract payment. The contract payment's going to go up a lot, and you will need to have the EMS levy renewed or find another source of funding, and there's still some gaps there. So we're going to look at the options around that. You don't need to finalize your plan here, but it may be something that the voters are interested in knowing, and you'll want to have enough of a direction that you can pull the trigger very quickly if the annexation vote is unsuccessful, because right after the election, you'll have about 2 weeks to turn around and place a ballot measure. For example, if you choose to try to renew the EMS levy, you will have about 2 weeks to turn around and get that back sent over to the county elections office. So at the January 18th meeting is when we want to start talking about this with you. We will recap the options and give you guys an opportunity to talk about what's important to you about the discussion and what options you might see in addition to those that the staff have sort of pondered on. Give you a chance to talk about the pros and cons of each. Continue that discussion on the 25th. And the first, if needed, the final action takes the form of a motion. Or at least that's our proposal on February 8th. Next slide, please. So February 1st and February 8th, we would have, if all goes well, we would have draft version or final draft versions of the resolution and all the documents, the resolution about the budget plan, a motion about the backup funding plan if annexation is rejected, and the actual resolution asking the elections department to put the measure on the ballot, including the ballot language. So that's those are sort of how we hope to see this roll out. Next slide just recaps this all again. And so this will be our plan for the next 5 weeks. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, or you have an opportunity to talk about this if you would like.
I'm looking at the RFA plan, the pre-annexation plan, and the interim services plan, Karen.
Yes.
In the last proposal, there were 2 proposals being presented by the old District 7 and South County. And the South County plan was an interim proposal. It had not been approved by them yet. But it had all the details about the fire station and costs and all the particulars of what would happen if we chose to go with them. But it had not been approved. Was that the pre-annexation plan, and which plan was that? And when
that will be in the interim service contract is where that pricing is, that we had the range. And I at this point, it does seem that we are on track for both staff teams to bring forward, with support of at least their intergovernmental committee, the lower pricing line that we had identified for you. So that pricing is in the interim service contract. If the annexation agreement just is more about, if the voters say yes, then there's a switch out of the revenues and we purchase the fire station and make it available to them. That's really the focus of the pre-annexation agreement. Does that make sense? I'm not hearing you, sir. I'm sorry.
we will get it. Maybe you're going to give it to us next week. That will give us the details of what will be the components of a plan with South County Fire. What are the details that we have to do? One of them is we have to buy the fire station and give it to them. The fees, very clear. We got those down. Are there any other components or criteria that is involved with going with them? That's kind of what I wanted to see what the final proposal was, and I understood the other one was not approved yet, so don't look at that one. It was presented.
Well, the RFA plan amendment is approved. The other documents were in the final days of the negotiation, and we expect to be able to bring forward a summary of the agreements as negotiated and agreed to between the staff teams. And we don't want to send it up to them until you guys have had a chance to see it and think about it, and they've had a chance to see it and think about it at their board. And if there are any glitches, we can make adjustments before either party acts. So you'll see the staff recommended draft is our plan. Staff recommended drafts of everything next week.
Councilmember Steckler, are you asking to see what the board approved?
Yeah, I want to know if it had been approved and
what it is that they approved.
what have they approved? And
Yes, you'll
it
see
sounds
that
like
as
they
well.
haven't quite approved it yet.
No,
Well, they have approved one of the 3 documents. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, they have approved a plan amendment, which is really their high level document that says, we agree that we're fine with Mill Creek asking its voters if they would like to annex at the April 26th election.
that after tonight and make sure to include it in the materials for next week so we all have it. But if we
Yes,
could get it, whatever it was before the board of South County that they approved, so we can see that.
But it sounds like what I'm looking for is what are the particular details of the agreement with South County after we move forward? With annexation or without annexation, we're going to move forward. What are the details of that agreement?
No, my understanding is what they approved, that it's in there, and that's what I want to confirm.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping. I think we were asking for the same thing.
Yes, you'll see all 3 documents. One of them's been approved. The most general one has been approved. The more detailed agreements have not been approved. All 3 of them will come forward so you can take a look at them next week and every week thereafter. I cannot hear you, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a question? We've lost Vince.
Hey, I'm here.
Do you have a question?
Sorry, there was a delay in the audio. Yeah, quick question. Karen, thanks for the great presentation as usual. How soon before we can see if for whatever reason the the annexation vote is unsuccessful, how soon before the public and the council can see alternative funding sources or where the money is going to come from, or how I think the side-by-side comparison, and the reason I asked for this, it's better that the people see this way ahead of time so they know it's going to have to come from somewhere because of the exponential increase in the costs.
Yes, we're planning to bring that back on the 18th. We're going to start with the idea of success. What will you do if you no longer are responsible for fire and EMS and we have the annexation? And then the following week, we'll continue that as we need to, but we'll also pick up the, if we're unsuccessful, what are our funding options to fill that hole that we need to fill for paying the contract moving forward. And how much money is that? How many different ways can we fund that? And have you guys ask us questions and pick a preferred path starting on the 18th.
Yeah, that's for the special meeting on the 18th, that barring something extraordinary that also we need to add to the agenda, that meeting will focus hopefully exclusively on this topic and on that particular issue.
Yes.
Any other questions for Karen?
Yeah, I have one more question. So on the 11th, we're going to be looking at an overview of the public education effort. Is that like the details of the materials or just the plan?
No,
we don't have the materials yet because we haven't come up with what we're going to take to the voters. So the intent was to introduce Liz Loomis and her team to us and give an overview of what they plan to do and what they need from us and going forward.
Thank you.
Sorry to jump that, Karen.
Nope, that's perfect.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Will you be with us on the 11th, or is that the beginning of your time off?
That is the beginning of my time off.
Have fun.
Thank you. I will see you when February rolls around. I'll be back.
Okay, thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Be well.
Okay, that brings us to item K. This is on the agenda to not be a lengthy study session tonight, but to start a lengthier discussion next week. So two things to discuss tonight. One is I included in the packet the last circular that we did with, I can't remember the name of the firm.
Peckham and McKenney.
Thank you. That we used when we hired our past city manager. And as we talked about when we hired the last several city managers, we did not have a deputy city manager. So I included the job description that Mr. Caravino came up with for that position. So my first suggestion is that next week we have an additional study session to begin a discussion on the job description. So we can all get on the same page of any changes we want to make to the description going forward. And then the second item, I did not reach out to Prothman over the last couple of weeks. Instead, what I asked staff to put together is the list of the firms that we have solicited in the past several years when we've searched for city managers. We have a lot on staff's plate in the coming weeks and months. My suggestions that I'm open to hearing from all of you is that we form a 3-person committee of this body to begin taking the laboring oar on vetting out search firms for beginning this process. I think that would be with support of staff rather than us supporting staff to do this work for us. They need to focus on, in my opinion, on what they have on their plate. So I would like to hear from you what you think of the idea of getting 3 volunteers to take the lead on getting us started on this process.
Mayor?
Yes. Councilmember Steckler.
I agree with the idea. I like that very much. In fact, I would volunteer to be one of the members of that subcommittee to work on this. It's just time consuming to contact these firms, ask them questions, organize the questions and make sure we get the answers so that we can bring back to council the responses and see if there are a few here that kind of rise to the top that maybe the entire council could then do an interview with on a call or something. But yes, I think that's a great idea to take that off of staff, especially with the suggestion. It was interesting that Barb Heidel brought up. I was thinking the same thing. I went through this whole list before the meeting and looked at the national companies versus the local companies. And I was intrigued by the local companies and would be interested in a deep dive into them to see what they could provide if they could provide that type of expertise to us.
Yeah, and that list wasn't intended to be exclusive. It was just a list of who we've solicited in the past for proposals. Would the mayor pro tem be interested and willing to?
Yes.
That's 2 of 3. Do we have another volunteer?
I mean, I was going to say, but it looks like also Councilmember Allison was about to move to. Okay, I would like to.
Okay. I think we have our committee of 3. If we can get that committee going on starting to look at, discuss how to move forward with looking at those firms. And then next week, we'll have a study session when we can talk about the job description and start that discussion.
Can we get the job description emailed out to all of us, like by the weekend, just to get us start thinking about it, the current one we have?
Wasn't it in the
It's in the
packet?
packet.
We have the, I'm sorry, I saw the job description for the deputy city manager. I thought we. didn't
Well, we have the brochure. The brochure that Peckman and McKinney is essentially the job description that we put together that they sent out to solicit candidates for the position. So I'm not, do we have,
I thought we had an actual job description from the city.
well, we'll ask the city clerk and the city attorney to see if we have one in our personnel manual or anywhere in our files, if we have an actual job description for the city manager, other than what's stated in the code. So we'll look and see if we have that and
Okay.
include that. Okay, we have a plan for that. Any other comments? Okay. Consent agenda, just some meeting minutes. So item L, the consent agenda, city council meeting minutes of a special meeting of November 30th, 2021, and regular meetings of December 7th and December 14th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Take that as a motion from Councilmember Steckler and a second by Councilmember. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is approved. On to reports, I just want to, 3 things briefly. 1, thank you for your support. Look forward to serving as mayor for another 2 years and working with the mayor pro tem. 2nd, I will work with the mayor pro tem and the clerk and the interim city manager to identify a date in January when we can restart our town hall virtual town. Well, I guess it'll be a combination of, what do we call the hybrid model. We'll figure out a date for later in January and how we'll do that. And then the 3rd thing is included in the packet was the list of proclamations we have historically done over the last several years. So you recall when we were revising the governance manual early in 2020, we said at the beginning of the year, we'd bring that list of proclamations before the council, and let's be prepared next week to identify any changes. If you have any additions of things you don't see on that list, or things we want to add, or we can discuss if there's anything we want to subtract. But let's have that discussion briefly next week. So with that, that's all I had for tonight. Mayor Pro Tem, any report tonight?
No report, Mayor.
Councilmember Bond, any report?
Not a report, just a comment. I sold my truck. I wish I had my truck. I miss my truck, but thankfully, due to the hard work of Matthew Combs and his crew, I can still get around. I know you guys have been busting it for this storm, and I appreciate it. If you let your guys know, we appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Councilmember Steckler, any report tonight?
No report, just a couple of requests I'd like to put out there for maybe next week's meeting if possible from our interim city manager. One is I'd still like to get a date on when we can get an update on the Mill Creek Boulevard plan. I've had a couple of people asking me
Agenda for next meeting.
on that. I don't know if that's down, but he can let us know when he gets to his section. And also I'd like to request an update on, if we could, maybe even Tom Rogers give us this on the farm. How is that going? How are they doing on the ramp up, the rent up, and just kind of give us an idea on how it's going over there. Just be curious.
Councilmember Cavallari, any report tonight?
Just real briefly, Mayor. Kudos to the staff. I've got some good reports from citizens, just really telling us how well they did for snow. I mean, we are leaps and bounds ahead of last year, so thank you. Also, I drafted an ordinance that I presented to the interim city manager and our city attorney, the no sit, no lie law. So if we can get an update on that, that would be helpful. And aside from that, I hope everybody had a wonderful new year.
Councilmember Allison, any report tonight?
I was able to meet with Mike Todd and his staff, and Melissa was there too on the 20th of December. And I just really appreciate them providing us with a good overview of the Public Works and Development Services section of the city. Really appreciated that. And just another shout out to Matthew Combs and team. It really has been leaps and bounds better this year than it was last year. So good job. Please pass that on to the guys that are actually driving the trucks because they've done a great job. I think that is all I have this time around. Thanks.
Councilmember Duque, any report?
No report.
Interim city manager, your reports, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Council. My report today are two items. One is the no camping ordinance that we're working on that Councilmember Cavallari just spoke about. The second is the Facebook issues that we've been having that Mayor Pro Tem brought up a few weeks back as well. Before I start, I'd like to mention that in the next few weeks, Councilmember Steckler, we will be providing an update on the farm. It's going to take us some time to repair. There's a number of things that our mayor provided me with we need to research on, so it'll take some time.
Great.
Thank you. So back to the no camping ordinance. As we all recall, beginning of December, there was a tent up on North Creek Drive. Since then, the tent has been removed and it's no longer there. During that time, we received a lot of feedback from our residents and community regarding an anti-camping ordinance, or if there's something out there that we have that could support preventing individuals from camping on public spaces. We do have one ordinance, but that only pertains to our parks. And I believe it's after, for example, 10 p.m. that people cannot camp in our parks. So the city responded, and we are now working or doing some research on an anti-camping ordinance. As Councilmember Cavallari mentioned, we're working with him, with our legal, Grant Deginger, and doing right now preliminary research, looking at examples from the city of Redmond, Everett. And with that ordinance, there also has to be some resources that we need to provide as well, like housing resources. So we're doing some research right now, putting everything together, and Mayor Holtzclaw did recommend that we have a study session next week, which we will plan for when we get those materials ready by that time. So that's the update on that. With that, I can answer any questions.
Mayor, interim city manager, one of the issues that both Councilman Cavallari and I were asking you about was the no lay. I don't know if it's no sit, no lie, but no lie, that rule that I know Everett implemented. If I would be very curious if you could contact them and get some information on that and how they implemented that and any challenges that they've had with that, or do they have to use, do they have to take the people to public shelters, or can they just enforce it? And how's that been working for them? I'd be very curious if you could get us some feedback on that.
Okay, I believe our acting police chief has been researching a little bit in that area as well. So we will provide that research.
I'd be really curious on that one in particular. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor. I was kind of hoping our deputy manager, acting city manager might go into a little bit of the detail. I appreciate him trying to be brief so we get out of here on time. But for the audience and folks, it would seem at a distance a very simple problem. You're blocking a sidewalk, you're in a tent, it's illegal, go to jail. Deal with it. There should be it makes sense that would be an easy fix. Well, if it was an easy fix, we'd had already fixed it. The fact is it's a very complicated problem. And there's I believe it was our 9th district courts that basically said incarcerating people for homelessness is unfair. And you can't do it. You have to provide them a shelter to go to basically, and then they have to refuse the shelter, and then you can look at criminal charges. So without going into much more than that, I just want to, the citizens need to understand, I get your indignation, your frustration. It might seem like an easy fix, just pass a law, make it go away. But if that was an easy fix, all these cities that you see on TV wouldn't be struggling with it at the level they are. And to be honest, we're quite fortunate that our problems are as minimal as they are currently. Thank you.
Comment.
City Attorney Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to compliment Councilmember Bond on his very good description of the result in the case of Martin versus the city of Boise, which is the Ninth Circuit case that he was describing, and it does put into context the challenges that the city faces. And we will be discussing that more next week.
Thank you, Grant.
Item on my report is a Facebook update. The with individuals who are not subscribed to Facebook, having not being able to access our pages. Now we're finding that it's the same problems or issues are occurring, or restrictions are occurring across neighboring cities as well. The problem lies in a movement from our old Facebook page to the new interface or application. So when agencies are moving to the new application, there are new restrictions on those new pages. Now, we're currently researching the situation with a consulting firm, D2, that's reaching out to Facebook to hopefully resolve the issue sometime fairly soon. In the meantime, we've had a temporary solution by putting a link on that Facebook page that we have where users can click on that page and it'll be directed directly to our City of Mill Creek page where all the same information is posted. Now, keep in mind, it's not dynamic there though, so you can't leave comments and messages and interact, but the information is there for our residents to see. So that's our solution at this point in time, and then we'll update as we go on what we find out with the technical issues that are occurring. And I want to commend our IT department and also our marketing communications for working on this project. It's been long and tedious. Thank you. With that, I'll take any questions.
Councilmember Duque.
Thank you. I know I read in the one of our newspapers, there was a piece about this and about the restrictions. So I think it would be very helpful for the communications team to write a letter to the editor or put it into the newspaper, since the readers there saw it brought up, and so they might not be checking here. So if that, and if there's any need for help, if you need someone to write it or respond, I'm always available. But I definitely think communicating it to the newspaper as a letter to the editor is important.
We've already talked about that. Just for the record, the person who wrote that article wrote the article before they called the city to inquire why this issue was going on and whether we were aware of it. So
I figured, but I think it's important that we make sure it's still, even if we tell the person who we all know who it is, it's still having it in writing in the newspaper that we responded as a city, I think is important.
We're working on that. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a comment?
I did. I have a question. So are we saying that all the information that we have on Facebook is available on the website? Because if they can't get to the Facebook page, because they don't have Facebook, they can't get to the link on Facebook to tell them to go to the city website. So is the basic information on the city website, you just can't comment and interact because it's not Facebook. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. Now, here, it's a technical issue. So when you go on to the new City of Mill Creek webpage where we moved over, it's when you start scrolling is when that pop-up comes and says that you have to log in.
Okay.
So if you don't touch anything, you just log in, click the link right up front, it'll take you straight to the web page. So you still be able to access that page as long as you don't scroll.
Okay,
if
thank
that
you.
makes sense. Yeah. And to answer Councilmember Duque, a letter was sent to the View today.
Oh, perfect.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's kind of late in the game, but just out of curiosity, are we discussing why folks who do not subscribe to Facebook can't access Facebook or City of Facebook posts? I mean, that it honestly seems to not make much sense. It sounds like a subscriber issue for the venue that provides the information and not a city issue. There's a number of mediums that we transmit information from. So I'm not exactly sure what the issue is here that we're trying to solve. It seems like we're trying to create something that really doesn't exist, but I'm all ears if I'm off on this one, but it sounds like Facebook, it's their medium and it's their rules.
Okay. Anything else on this?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Combs, the snow report.
Can everybody hear me? Awesome.
Yep.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. I'm going to try to make this as smooth as possible, but I got to tell you, after day 3, everything starts running together. So before I begin, I want to highlight the fact that the Public Works crew, this was over the holidays, right? The day after Christmas is when snow hit. Half of my crew was out of town on vacation, which left 2 people to do the deal for the entire week. I want to point out Robert Hartman. He's my newest member of the crew. That guy logged a lot of hours this week. He pretty well carried this storm on his back for several days. Jason Thomas, he ended up canceling a few days of his own vacation to make sure that, you know, we had the support that we needed to get through. I had one guy that was out of state and could not catch a flight back for several days. He showed up the last 2 days of the storm. So thankfully we had that. But for a significant portion of this, we were down to 1 man. So as you know, day after Christmas, Sunday, December 26th, the snow started accumulating at about 6:30 a.m. Crazy thing about this is everybody seemed to be on the road at 6:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning for some reason. Public Works got to City Hall and began plowing at 7 o'clock. Our first contractor showed up at about 9 o'clock and continued helping plowing. They plowed all day long. Public Works, we did load and apply a few loads of salt and sand mix to some specific areas, namely the hills, Mill Creek Boulevard, Mill Creek Road, Cottonwood, Fairway, some of the real significant hills, a couple of places in Evergreen. They plowed all day and all night, well into the night. About 10 o'clock, temperatures got down to about 20 degrees. At about 3 or 4 in the morning, they were about 13 to 14 degrees, which meant nothing was going anywhere. Once we got a break in the snowfall, we applied a whole bunch of sand to those trouble areas, making sure that we had nice, safe roads, as safe as we could throughout most of the city. We were pretty successful with that. And as the storm continued into Monday, we continued plowing, we continued running my contractors, applying sand and salt. We did activate our contractor's second piece of equipment, which was a skid steer that was really helpful with the city parking lots, the library, the sports park, Main Street, 153rd up to 3rd Avenue. That was kind of that corridor for that piece of equipment. Rolling into that afternoon, the snow stopped on Monday morning. I want to say it was around 3 or 4 a.m. We still continued plowing all day. There was plenty of stuff to move. As we rolled back into that evening, the snow picked back up again. We started seeing accumulation. By Monday evening, early Tuesday morning, we had almost 7 inches in various spots throughout the city. Tuesday night, Public Works and our contractors continued to apply sand and salt. I'll summarize this with, this was a 5-day ordeal. So it was a day and night operation, plowing, sanding, salting, doing everything we could in that sense. with just a couple of breaks in the weather. By Wednesday, we had depleted about 2/3 of our salt storage. We'd gone through about 1,500 gallons of de-icer. A lot of that was pre-treatment before the storm, before Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we had a guy out here de-icing the roads, making sure we had a good pre-layer down to make snow removal a lot easier. So Wednesday, as we rolled into Wednesday, I had 30 more yards of salt brought in to replenish our supply. The second wave of the storm was set to hit on Wednesday night. We had Public Works crew, a crew member lined up, and both our contractors were lined up and ready for the snow at about 5 p.m. on Wednesday evening. The snow hit at about 7, maybe 6:30. We had the motor grader, which you guys I'm sure have seen before with KOB. They did a fantastic job. I'm really happy that we had them this year. They stuck pretty much to Highway 527 and SR 96, and they also included 35th Avenue. That was their route all night long, all morning and well into the afternoon. I think 527 turned out looking really good by the time it was all said and done. Public Works and the other contractor who was driving a truck with a plow, they focused on the rest of the priority routes and the secondary routes. They ran again all day, all night, and into the next day, maintaining the priority and secondary routes. Every now and then when we'd have a lull in the weather, they were able to break off into some of the neighborhoods. I want to acknowledge that we couldn't get to all of the neighborhoods. I'm aware of that. We tried like heck, but there's a lot. Thursday morning, we hit a break in the snow, and I ended up sending the contractors home. Everybody needed rest at that point, so there wasn't a lot going on. We did have one guy still here plowing for most of the day and applying salt in some specific areas. Skirting through Thursday night into Friday morning, both KOB and Edgemont, which is our other contractor, a plow truck, a skid steer, and the motor grader, at about 10 a.m. they all shut down. That was it for them. Until Friday night, I did have the plow truck come back and continue to hit neighborhoods and the secondary routes until everything was clear. Not clear in the neighborhoods, but the secondary routes had bare pavement. When it touched the supply that we had for the first wave of the storm, I had already used, like I said, about 1,500 gallons of de-icer, 32 tons of salt, and about 25 tons of sand. That would be the reason why on Thursday I had another 35 tons of salt brought in. And you guys haven't seen it today. We had 5,000 gallons of de-icer delivered today as well. So all of our supply is restocked, and we're back up to where we need to be for the next wave or the next storm. So again, WashDOT, I did reach out to them during this storm. We have 2 state highways that go through the city, and I'll just make this short. Their answer to me was no. They're not going to help us. They reaffirm that they take care of other things, but snow removal is on us, which hence KLB's motor grader was a significant thing to have, and really made everything possible to have the roads as clear as they are now. Snohomish County, they did help us a little bit. I know that they were on Seattle Hill Road quite a bit. They did plow and they did drop a little bit of sand there. I did also see them on SR 96. I don't know why they were doing it. I'm grateful that they were. I suspect that it was a plow down while they were en route to somewhere else. I never saw anybody drop any sand in our area. However, it was a blessing to have them put their blade down. News for this storm, unfortunately, the 2 plows that we ordered back in August were supposed to be here last week during the snow. Unfortunately, they've been delayed again, and we still don't have them. I've reached out to the provider of these plows. daily. Every other day is a phone call. Every other day from that is an email. They swear that they're going to let me know as soon as they get here. And the day that they get here, the day the first plow gets here, a truck will go down and get it mounted. The second thing of bad news is our sander for our new PW14, the big, beautiful, amazing truck that we have that I love so very much, is delayed until February. So we are still running our old truck with our old sander, which does the job now. It would just be a whole lot more efficient and safer and better when we have the equipment that we purchased. I want to highlight a couple of lessons and things that I was able to confirm during this last week. Namely, working with the second plow. The second plow is a night and day kind of difference. Being able to tandem plow, being able to have two plows that are out in neighborhoods, spreading the load evenly, trying to get everywhere we can. That was an immense help. That we are really going to be successful moving forward with those two plows that we've ordered. On top of that, with the two plows that we have and the training for the crew with tandem plowing and things like that, I think that our need for outside contractors will be reduced significantly. I think the best thing that Public Works could have done is purchase the plows, the sander, but also the sand and salt containment. Being able to store 30 to 40 tons of salt and just drive the truck to that location and stay within the city was a huge deal for me this year. One, it's safer for the crew. They're not having to drive all the way to Everett in the middle of a snowstorm with a truck and trailer. Everything is right there. Having the backhoe on hand, again, another immense help. You know, being able to load right then and there, not have to call in or wait for somebody to show up to load you out with 2 yards so you can run and spend 20 minutes dumping it and come back. That was a huge deal for us. It did help us burn through quite a bit more material, but the end result, I believe, was quite a bit better than it has been in the past. One that I'd like to point out, and this is a continuation from last year, is we did not close a single road. Yes, there were accidents, you know, that's the kind of the nature of the beast, but we didn't have to close any hills. There was no roads that were unmanageable. I don't recall getting any or many complaints from citizens. We do know that there are still areas that have icy spots and some hills that still have quite a bit of ice on them. We're getting to those as we can. We are still applying de-icer throughout the neighborhoods and some of those trouble spots. And we will continue to plow until that stuff is off the road. And the last thing I'll mention is the secondary and priority routes. They stayed relatively clear throughout the duration of this storm. Everybody that was involved, whether it was the contractors or the public works crew, they really put a lot into this. They really sacrificed themselves, their time with their families on a holiday weekend, let alone throughout the middle of the night, all day, 12-hour shifts, 13-hour shifts sometimes. I can't emphasize that enough. So with that, I'd be happy to hear you guys' feedback or take any questions.
Job well done. Any questions, comments?
Great job.
As you said, I think the barometer of the success is whether you or us receive many complaints, and I don't think we've received hardly any. I think that's a sign of a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, people.
Okay, that brings us at the end, the last of the reports.
And the reports, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
That brings us to audience communication before we adjourn. Anyone like to speak to the council before we adjourn? Going once, twice. Mr. Nelson, name and address, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes if you could.
Will Nelson, 14925 29th Drive Southeast, Mill Creek. One comment on your progress going forward for selecting a new city manager, etc. I would hope this time that you leave the populace or the citizens of the Mill Creek out of the process and leave the city employees out of the process. I believe that it's your job to select the city manager It is not the job of the populace or the employees to select the city manager. And excellent report there by your maintenance manager on what they did, but I don't recall seeing any trucks of any kind in Red Cedar. So if they were here, I apologize, but I see no evidence in our subdivision of any efforts whatsoever to remove snow. Again, if I'm in error, I apologize. Third item, on the fire contract, I just want to repeat that every dime, every nickel, every penny that the city saves should go back to the property owners, and that includes the entire 88 cents. Thank you.
To address the council. With that, we will adjourn our first regular meeting of 2022. I can't promise it will all be this expedient and short, but we're off to a good start. See everyone next week. We'll be adjourned.
Good job, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. Congratulations.
Thank you, Vince.